So I want to share with you guys an interesting article I came across earlier this morning, and it's basically breaking down different kinds of moves the Packers can make to be able to free up a lot of cap space, which then gives them the ability to make moves in free agency. And so I want to show you guys this article here. It was on Packers Wire, and it's titled "Packers Can Save $60 Million or More in Salary Cap Space with These 11 Potential Moves." This is by Paul Brettel. It was a very interesting article, so I will leave it linked in the description if you want to check it out for yourself as well. So it basically breaks down the current state of the Packers salary cap, which we've discussed a little bit on this channel. Over the cap has us at $2.8 million over, and then Ken Ingalls, who follows the Packers and keeps up with the cap space on Twitter, says they need to create roughly $30 million to account for lots of different things like the incoming draft class, things like that. But the Packers, I think, are in a better position than they have been in years past. And so that's at least, a positive going into the start of the new year. So first off here, we have contract restructure candidates. First off, we'll scroll down to first player, Kenny Clark, $11.28 million in 2024 cap savings. Clark comes with a cap hit of $27.49 million this season, the second largest on the team. This is the final year of his deal, and with 3 void years for 2025 through 2027, already utilized by Green Bay, only 1 void year can be added to his current contract. Given Clark's play and age, I would consider him a more likely extension candidate. And that is a good point. It's his final year of his contract. He is currently 28 years old, and so considering he's still, I think, playing at a top-tier level, it would not be surprising whether before this next season, whether during the season, after next season, for the Packers to give Kenny Clark an extension. Maybe that's a 3, 4, 5-year extension that would keep him in Green Bay till he's maybe 32, 33 years old. And considering, he is still, I think, in his prime, I think bringing him back and on another extension could make lots of sense. So that's Kenny Clark. Jaire Alexander, $10.66 million in 2024 cap savings. As Brian Gutekunst said, Jaire Alexander isn't going anywhere in 2024. Alexander comes with a cap hit of $23.98 million, including a base salary of $6.6 million and a roster bonus of $8 million. He still has 2 years left on his contract beyond 2024 and already has 1 void year utilized in 2027. Then to Preston Smith, $7.79 million in 2024 cap savings. Smith is still under contract through 2026 and has a void year for 2027. The tricky part with Smith is that at 32 years old, the Packers are already set to incur cap hits of $16.5 million, $17.5 million, and $18.2 million over the next 3 seasons. Further restructuring Smith's deal is only going to increase the second and third figures. This might be a contract that the Packers should just leave alone for 2024 and reevaluate in 2025. So if they were to restructure his deal, it would make those future cap hits in the future years more, which happens anytime you restructure someone's contract. Even though you're freeing up that space in the present time for the present year, it does make future years, it adds the cap to those future years. So it's not like you're just, moving this money away completely. It goes to those future years, so they have to pay up eventually. And so that is a good point with Preston Smith already having those big cap hits in future years. It may be wise to hold off on that. And also when you look at Preston Smith, he is 30, he's around 32 years old. And I was looking at the numbers. If the Packers were to release him after 2024, he would have a cap hit of $9.8 million after 2024. If you release him after 2025, he'll have a dead cap hit of $5.7 million. So a $9.8 million dead cap hit if released after 2024, and a $5.7 million dead cap hit if released after 2025. So hopefully Preston Smith can continue to play at a top tier level, getting a little bit up there in age. But it's possible after maybe 1-2 years he could be released to save some space. It's a possibility. Then to Aaron Jones, $7.79 million in 2024 cap savings. Like Alexander, we know that Aaron Jones isn't going anywhere for the 2024 season. This is the final year of Jones's current deal, and like last offseason, we could see some combination of a restructure and or a pay cut take place. Jones comes with a cap hit of $17.02 million, a large hit for a running back who has missed playing time, and with 3 void years already used, the Packers can only add at most 1 more to help lower his 2024 cap hit. And the thing with Aaron Jones that is tricky is there's no doubt that when he is fully healthy, he is still playing as one of the best running backs in the NFL. We saw that the final 5 or 6 games of the season. The only issue is this past year, especially, he did deal with lots of different injuries, missed a lot of games. And so I do think just like Jones had to take a cap hit or pay cut last season, I would assume the same thing happens going into 2024 because there's no doubt when he's playing, he plays at a top tier level. But the Packers management has to recognize that he is somewhat, it does have some kind of an injury risk, which I think would mean the Packers, not wanting to spend that $17 million for a cap hit. So it's a good possibility that he takes some kind of pay cut. Then to Elgton Jenkins, what we can change up or add there with a restructure, $5.31 million in 2024 cap savings. Including 2024, Jenkins still has 3 years left on his contract and no void years have been utilized by Green Bay. Jenkins has a base salary of $3.5 million and a roster bonus of What the heck just happened? Jenkins has a base salary of $3.5 million and a roster bonus of $5.1 million that could be converted to a signing bonus to help lower this year's cap hit. So you can get a little bit of space there with the Elgton Jenkins contract doing restructure. And then for the final restructure one here from Paul Brettel, we have Rashawn Gary, $5.31 million in 2024 cap savings. Although Rashawn Gary just signed an extension during the 2023 season, a portion of his $6.2 million roster bonus could become a signing bonus and prorated over the remaining 4 years of his contract. Given that the Packers typically backload their contracts, Gary's base salary in 2024 is only $1.3 million, leaving little wiggle room for Brian Gutekunst and Russ Ball to deal with. Now, here are the extension candidates. He says this: an extension is adding new years and new money into a contract. The reason that this can help lower the current year's cap hit is because along with the new money being infused into the contract, oftentimes teams will convert portions of the base salary and roster bonus from the current year to a signing bonus, which, as we've discussed, is then prorated over the life of a new deal. So first, extension candidate Kenny Clark, which we already talked about a little, 12.03 in 2024 cap savings, potentially in an extension. Clark is coming off a season where he set a career high in both sacks and quarterback hits. At still just 29 years old. Actually, I think he's 28, I'm pretty sure, based on at least what Wikipedia says, but it's either 28 or 29. He is a prime extension candidate, which would keep one of the game's better defensive linemen in Green Bay for a few more seasons and lower his $27 million cap hit in 2024. So that's another possibility with Clark. Jordan Love, $3 million to $7 million in additional 2024 cap charges. And so it says here, given the quarterback market, Love's relatively low 2024 cap hit of $12.7 million, along with him in store for a big payday that could put him around the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks in football. An extension for Love will actually increase his 2024 cap hit. Ken Ingalls, who independently tracks the Packers cap, estimates that Love could earn between $48 and $52 million per year, which, depending on how the deal is structured, would put his 2024 cap hit in the $15 million to $20 million range. Because of the factors mentioned initially, this is a bit of a unique situation. So my opinion has been that Love is going to become a top 5 highest paid quarterback. I believe he'll make over $50 million per season. And so considering it's around $50 million, what I think personally, going from a $12.7 million cap hit to 15 to 20 isn't terrible. To be able to keep Love around here for years and years and only add a little bit of a cap hit, $3 to $7 million next season, I think that it's a no-brainer, and I assume the Packers are going to get that done. Then here, Keyshawn Nixon. We'll see if the Packers bring him back. $1.1 million in 2024 cap savings. We are back to talking about void years. The example about Nixon in the previous section is a real discussion that the Packers have to make. If not extended before February 19th, then there will be a dead cap hit in 2024 for Nixon of $1.48 million. But if an extension is reached, the Packers will create $1.1 million in cap space for this season. So I guess if the Packers decide they want to bring Keyshawn Nixon back and not allow him to, test out free agency, they would need to give him an extension, according to this, before February 19th, or he becomes a cap hit of dead cap of $1.48 million. So it sounds like if the Packers want to keep him, we may hear about that in the next few days, potentially. And it's a similar thing here with Darnell Savage, $4.09 million in 2024 cap savings. Like Nixon, Savage played out 2023 on a one-year deal with the Packers, using void years to lower his cap hit last season. So if an extension is not reached, Savage will leave behind a dead cap hit of $5.45 million in 2024. This is an interesting decision that the Packers have. Savage was improved last season compared to 22, and Matt LaFleur praised him on a few occasions for his leadership. However, this is still a position where upgrades have to be made. Can Jeff Hafley, whose experience in the NFL is working with defensive backs and his defensive system, unlock Savage's upside? So I predicted in my free agent video that Savage will be back among the safeties. And when you throw in this fact that they can save some money by extending him before the cap hit the dead cap hit becomes official, if he were to move on, I think that it makes it even more reason to keep Savage, because you're not having to, deal with that dead cap hit with him not on your roster. So that's interesting. And then finally, roster cut candidates. So we have Devondre Campbell, $2.6 million or $10.57 million in 2024 cap savings. So there's two possibilities here, which is interesting depending on how the Packers, when they decide to release Campbell, if they do. Campbell is coming off a season where he dealt with injuries and went on the field, didn't quite look like himself in the playoffs. Isaiah McDuffie was lining up next to Quay Walker on early downs. If Campbell is released prior to March 15th, when he is set to receive a roster bonus, the Packers will save $2.6 million in cap space for 2024. So if released before March 15th, they'll save $2.6 million. That's the first possibility. However, as Ingles noted in a recent article, if the Packers release Campbell after March 13th, but before March 15th, and designate him as a post-June 1st cut, their savings then jump to $10.57 million for this season. So, there's tons of crazy things you can do with these contracts, and so they have to release him here between the 13th of March and the 15th of March and designate him as a post-June 1st cut, and that'll free up $10.5 million. And I would not be shocked if that happens, considering Campbell is getting a little bit up there in age. I don't think he's playing quite as good as he did a few seasons back after the Packers gave him a big new deal. And considering, I think Isaiah McDuffie has taken some nice steps forward, especially near the end of the season, to get $10.5 million for Campbell, releasing him in this way, I think sounds like a likely possibility, but we'll have to keep an eye on that one. And then finally, Royce Newman, $2.8 million in cap savings for 24. Over the cap has Royce Newman with a 2024 cap hit of $1.17 million, but Ingles notes that Newman will receive a proven performance escalator if on the roster, so accounting for that incoming cost, moving on from Newman will actually save the Packers $2.8 million in cap space. Interior offensive line depth is a major need for the Packers, but Newman's inconsistent play has him currently as a fourth guard option on the roster, not including any additions the Packers will inevitably make. So you can free up $2.8 million by releasing Newman. I don't think the Packers would hesitate to release him, as he says here, because he hasn't really done too much with his opportunity, but because there is that lack of depth, it's not a ton of money to save, but it still do a little bit. So I'm sort of, iffy on if that one will take place. But that is all I have for this video. I'll leave the full article down below if you want to check it out for yourself. But I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll see you guys next time.